All right, so as promised, I told you I'd cover a West Coast mixing tutorial, and today we're gonna do that. I think I just hit the desk and made my camera shake, but I'm not redoing this intro. Let's get into it. All right, so here's the mix by itself right now, directly after making the beat with the leveling that I had kind of going on when I was finished making the beat. So you hear that we need those drums to hit a lot harder. Everything's kind of even and it doesn't sound too good. The drums really need to hit on this. The pianos, the pads need to be spaced out. What I want to go for these type of beat mixes, especially this one, is something real spacey with the pianos and the leads, nice width to it, and the drums just to hit really hard and have that bass line stand out. So the first thing you'll see if I press play, nothing's clipping. Everything has like at least 6 dB of headroom. I just like to work with headroom. If I'm going to intentionally clip something like a kick or something to get to hit hard, I'll do that after. But when I start my mixes, I always like to have some headroom to work with. And in order to do that, if you see all of the faders are at 0 on the mixer, you go over here and you mess with the volume knob here because that feeds into the mixer tracks. So like I said, the first thing we're going to want to do is get these drums to hit hard. So for tutorial purposes, I am going to solo a lot of things so you can hear them, but it's always good to, kind of mix with everything so you can hear what's going on. But let's go ahead and solo the kick, the bass, the clap, everything like that, the stomp. I'm going to move this over real quick to the end and get a nice level with this. So let's go with the kick and the bass first. What I'm going to do is definitely bring this bass down so the kick can punch through a little bit more, but let's go ahead and hear it. I'm going to kind of level this out and then I'll explain what I do after. So I want the bass to fill the low end out, but I want the kick to really punch through. So let's just get levels going right now. Let's bring in the clap. Bring this crash down. We want it loud, but not too loud. Let's bring in the hi-hat. We'll pan it a little bit to the left, just a tiny bit. So as you can see, we're just going off leveling and sound selection right now. So this is sounding pretty good. We'll bring in the rest of everything else and get a level out, and then we'll start getting into processing it. So let's go ahead and solo these so you can hear them. And then we have pad 2. So that one kind of has like a plucky feel to it. So I'm going to have that one more up front so I can add to the accents on the downbeats. So we'll go ahead and have this pad in the background of this one. Bring the drums back in. Piano next. Show you what that sounds like. And I actually need to add some more gain to this so we can have some more. Let's bring it up to, let's see, normal, just a little bit louder so that now, we don't have to raise this. We can keep it either at 0 or bring it down. Just helps out a little bit to have some more gain to mess with. So let's bring these back in and let's keep going. And then the lead. Then we have one more pad. This one's kind of me tucked in the back. Now let's bring it into mono real quick. Remember, right now, all we're trying to do is get a nice level for this before we go into processing. So a lot of this is going to be clashing because the pads have a lot of low end that's clashing with the bass. But we're just going to get this basic level down to make the mix like 90% of the way there. And then the stomp, forgot about the stomp. All right, so we have a pretty nice mix going right now, basic leveling. Now let's get into the processing of everything. For the drums, the clap, I want to bring out the clap a little bit, make it a little bit brighter. So one of my favorite plugins to use for this currently is this EQ right here that's stock inside of FL Studio. If you haven't used this EQ before, this is a great EQ. I can make a whole video about it. Go somewhere around like that 5 to 7K, probably somewhere like right here. Bring in a nice little bell boost. Maybe some low end. Let's go over here, just do this by itself. That sounds good. I like how that's sounding. Let's go over to the cymbal real quick. I'm gonna add a little bit of distortion on the cymbal. You guys have seen me do this before, just to get it to sound a little bit more gritty. And we're gonna go over here and blend this in and just lightly blend it in. Let's tuck it back a little bit more. That sounded good. Nice and aggressive. I want to add a little bit of saturation to this bass. For your West Coast bass, you want that bass to really stand out. So we could use a lot of different processing for this. I don't know if I want to go with something aggressive or just something like Decapitator. I mean, a Decapitator can get pretty aggressive, but you can also just get a nice little tone out of it. So let's go ahead and solo it so you can hear what it sounds like. It's adding a little bit to it. I like E. Style E sounds good. Let's blend that in. See what it sounds like. It has to be turned down a little bit. It did have auto on, but let's go ahead and bring that down a little bit more. Stands out a lot. That's a lot better. I think for that cymbal, I'm gonna bring out just a tiny bit of high end. It's sticking out a little bit too much. So let's go over here and just shelf out a little bit of high end from like 7K up. That's too much, probably like 1 dB. Very light. Nice, tucks it back. All right, now let's get into the pad. So this main pad is gonna be this one right here. And for these, I don't want that much low end on them, to be honest. Like on some beats, it depends how much low end I'm gonna take out. For these, I'm gonna take out a lot of low end. I don't want really any low end in these. I just want these to really stand out on the mid range and high end and just let the bass, the stomp, and the kick completely take over the low end, and it'll make it stand out more. So for this pad, first thing I'm gonna do is throw an EQ on it. I'm gonna come over here, just get a little preset, do like a light little low cut on it. Let's see, let's bring it up to maybe like 100. Let's hear it in solo real quick. I like the punch that it has. It has a lot of transients at the top of it, so that sounds good. It kind of adds to like the grit of the beat, the impact of the beat. So from here, the only thing I'm gonna do to this is add a doubler and kind of widen it out. So let's go into here. Let's go to doubler, and I'm gonna load up just a normal basic doubler like this. And let's go ahead and check it in mono, make sure it doesn't sound too crazy. Sounds good. Let's bring it out of mono, and that one's done. Let's go on to the next one, which is gonna be this pad right here. So they're clashing a little bit. Let's get the EQ. I'm gonna take out a little bit of low end. Again, don't want too much low end in these, just for this beat specifically. You know, it's gonna depend on the beat that you're mixing. If it's clashing, then obviously you need to take it out. If it's not clashing, it sounds good, you can leave it. You got to use your ears. But intentionally for this beat, I don't want any low end in these at all, really. I just want to have the sub down there. But let's find out what's clashing on these two pads. So I'm gonna go over here to this pad, and I'm gonna bring up the second band, and it's gonna be somewhere in that like 300 to 500 range. I can already hear it. Let's go ahead, cut that out right there. Let's do like maybe 2-3 dB narrow cut like that. And we'll tuck this back a little bit, bring out a little bit of high end. Just take out a small amount. Piano next. This piano I want to be real loud, and I'm gonna again cut out just a little bit of low and nothing crazy on this one. This one sounds pretty good. Kind of want these melodies to be a little bit thin. And then on this, I'm gonna widen it out. FL has a nice widener. We could use Waves widener, but which is gonna be S1, but we could keep it stock right now. Stereo imaging, FL stereo enhancer, or fruity stereo enhancer. And we'll go over here and just kind of widen it out. We could do it right here too, but I like the plug-in form. We could bring it mono. Let's widen out just a little bit. Check in mono. All right, next thing we have is this lead. Let's go ahead and play it. Let's solo this pad, or actually take that pad out. Let's mute that pad. Let's bring in this lead right here. Go in here. Let's get a reverb just like this. So you'll see when it's playing, it has a little bit of reverb from the VST that I was using for it. But when I cut it off, if I hit stop, there's no tail to it, and I want it to have a tail, so when it stops playing, because the lead's only a couple notes, there's a nice little tail reverb to it, which isn't gonna happen. So let's go over here and let's bring up the decay. I'm gonna go probably like 2-3 seconds for this. Keep the size somewhere around there. Let's see. And I also want to have, well, let me turn it on first. I also want to have a little bit of delay on it so that it could come in a little late, maybe like right here. Let's see. Bring a lot of high end, but take out a lot of low end. Let's hear it in the context of the mix. Sounds good. Probably add a delay to it too. Let's do that. Maybe just a quick little eighth note delay. Let's go over here and load up somewhere in here. I have a preset to set it to a quarter note. Let's bring this to an eighth note real quick on a ping pong. See what this sounds like. Bring this up to like 20 maybe. I don't want it to be heard too much though. Let's bring it back down, maybe to 10. Just a light delay. That sounds good. Let's lead that back in. Lead that back in. Let's bring that back in. Cool. Then the next thing we have is this pad right here. Now this is really just like kind of an effect. So I want to have this very wide, and I want to have a reverb on it that has a delay to it. So the pad comes in, but then it also has like a tail to it that's a little bit late. So let's go ahead and hear that in context. Let's bring out a little bit of high end from this, just a tiny bit, tuck it back a little bit, nothing crazy. I'm also gonna run this through a little bit of saturation, some tape saturation. Let's get Kramer tape, turn this down. Some nice little saturation to it. And let's go over here to a reverb and let's put delay on. It's probably somewhere around here, size. And I'm also gonna widen this out too. So let's go over here, boom. Widen this out just a little bit. That sounded good. Let's go ahead and hear the whole thing. And obviously when you have everything playing, sometimes the master, when everything adds up, gets a little bit closer to 0. As you can see, we're pretty close there. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and bring all of it down together. So to do that, all you have to do is hold control, click the first one, drag over. There we go. We'll keep the same mix, but we'll bring it down a little bit. Make sure we're keeping a little bit of headroom. So this sounds good to me. So the next thing we need to do is get this loud, but I also want to make the kick louder. So I'm going to just go right here, reset the kick, which will bring it up by like maybe 1 or 2 dB because we brought everything else down. And now what I'm going to do is come over to the master track, and we can either use like a clipper or we can use a limiter. I'm going to use a clipper because I want that kick to hit really hard. And we could use a soft clipper. We could use G clip, whatever we want. I'm going to use soft clipper. I'm going to come over here to the post and bring it down by about 1%, and that's going to keep us at about that negative 0.5 to negative 0.3 range when we push in, because sometimes keeping it just like that, if I showed you on a meter, sometimes it goes over 0 dB if you're pushing it into the clipper a lot and keeping it at that 80%. So always bring it down just a little bit, and then you'll see. And then for this, we could use a gain plugin, but to make this quick, I'll just grab an EQ, and I'm just going to push in with the EQ like this. So let's see with the loudness meter, nothing's happening right now where we're peaking. At about negative, 2.8. So let's say I wanted to push into the clipper like 4 or 5 dB. I at least need to get this to 0. So a positive 2.8 plus whatever else if we wanted to do the math. But I'm going to just push it in until I think the kick starts to hit really hard. Mix kind of starts to distort. Then I'm going to back it off. I'm gonna bring the kick up a little bit more. Just get it to hit real hard. And then you'll see, because the LUFS meter is between the soft clipper and the EQ, we'll see how much we're actually pushing into it. So technically we're going into it at about 6 dB at the loudest peaks, but this sounds good to me. I like the aggressiveness that it has. So as long as it sounds good, you're good to go. But now if we move this obviously under the soft clipper, you'll see that we're not going to be peaking anymore, because that soft clipper is keeping us under 0. So see how much I'm pushing this? I'm actually bring this down to like 78% and check it again. And cool, we're keeping under 0. Like I said, it depends where you're uploading, but I'm just showing you guys if you want to get it as loud as possible, maybe just for wherever you're uploading. But again, this is not a mastering tutorial specifically for streaming platforms and things that have recommendations. This is just showing you guys how to get it stupid loud. But as you can see with that soft clipper, if we would have kept it at 80%, we would have been peaking in the end. So let's go ahead and keep it right there. And this sounds pretty good. Let's listen to it again from the top. Everything's hitting hard. The kick's hitting hard. It's a real aggressive mix. And this is what I want to go for when I'm mixing West Coast. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, leave a thumbs up. You guys can follow me on all social medias at Lifestyle Did It. Make sure to hit my site, lifestyledidit.com, for everything else. Other than that, subscribe to your boy, push notifications. Thanks.